Hey Twitch, hope you guys are doing well today. Today's YouTube video is going to be about being at the Pavilion recently, and also mentioning I'm doing a book inspired by being in mental hospital so many times, which is just that it's called I Can Run a Mental Hospital Better, which I'm going to give a brief setup. It's basically like my idea for my mental hospital gig would basically be I would do tests of faith all day, phone you about how I can figure out your mentally ill by just leaving enough dumb shit around. Or even just walking in, doing a morality lecture, and then leaving, and seeing if anyone goes autistic within an hour, or even in the room when I mention it. Like, off the top of my head, we did it in real life recently, which was funny. We caused a minor overreaction, which was that, like, we walked into a group therapy meeting, right? And they were like, hey, bros, how would you feel about making this wing co-ed? And I was like, based. And my reasons were simple. One, it can be a good test of faith to see if you're a rapist or sexist. And someone got annoyed because they hated the idea of women being in the wing as patients, being a test of faith to see if you're a rapist or sexist. Which I somewhat respect because it's just annoying probably to hear a man be like, that's right. I made that chance of a hot chick being in the room a test of faith to piss you off on any level. Even if you just get mad at women all day because they reject you or something, and you just like be too horny of a romance thing. Anyway, so moving on from my book, because I'm not just on web novel on the username Jacob_Hemlock, by the way. Check it out if you'd like. It's gonna probably be my main project along with the Malachi Jones book, which the Malachi Jones book is the world isn't supposed to be magical. But it's not just an acid trip, point and click adventure of a company aspiring to be the ultimate rapist on a scientific and evolutionary level, to where there's going to be funny memes like a man who's evolved into the first chapter. He's like, first thing I'm going to admit it to you guys, his build is supposed to be he's the rapist that only wanted to be a penis. He has no arms and legs. He's just a giant penis, guys. Anyway. Anyway, moving on to my review of the Pavilion. Now, first of all, how did it go? The assessment was pretty annoying. Because first of all, I had to enter by failing the assessment as always. Which, how did we fail? Well, my only assumption is that we autistically yelled at my mom back and forth between each other for 2 hours about how she should abandon me instead of fucking just putting me there. And we used our own arguments against her, which I barely supported. But I will admit, we did try to use them against her to make us separate. Like, for example, she accused me, for some reason, of trying to kill her for the past year straight. I said, why did you try to keep me with you then? If you should just separate from me. Abandon me. Don't live with me. I did not deny being a serial killer hard enough, I guess. They probably got upset by that. That's probably the only way I failed. Besides yelling at my mom to just, like, give up on a mental hospital. And just fucking don't put me here. You're annoying. Because we had the argument about why do you think I'm even mentally ill too hard for 2 hours. I just kept asking her why she thought I was mentally ill. I didn't respect any of them. They're all annoying. Best argument she had was anarcho-capitalism's gambler's lifestyle, which I will admit we had some schizo vibes, but I'd be very well behaved in public. And especially there was another argument which I feel like was my best argument, which is quite simply, my mom is not in the same room as me as much as the library staff is over there. So I'm just like, why do you get an opinion on my mental illness? If, like, you don't even pay attention to my social media, or fucking, like, even read my books, or just fucking look at anything, or even be in the room with me for more than 5 minutes a day. Because at best she shows up to have an argument with me about something dumb. And I won't lie, we basically autistically hate each other, to the point we are both, like, I at least act more restrained, but it's getting easier to yell at her about stupid shit, because I just want to make her fucking acknowledge me too hard. Because we're always in a dumb debate. When this mental hospital stay at the Pavilion actually started as a way for me to stay out of the fucking homeless shed that I'm at, which has no power and water. And I won't lie, it's a condemned house, so she has like a basic argument for why I shouldn't be there. But I don't care, because honestly she's not providing a home for me. She's being a bitch. Basically saying she barely wants to support me. She did drop off food recently, which was neat though. Still getting supported with food at least. We'll see how long that lasts. Because honestly I'm sick of my mom. I want to separate from her. She's fucking annoying. He's putting me in mental hospitals. And even recently, as soon as the next day, as soon as I got out of mental hospital, yelled and was mad, I got out of mental hospital in 3 days because I was based. It was a base time, especially because the bare minimum discharge time for the Pavilion is normally 5 days. We got out in 3 because Pavilion just admits I was too sane to fucking keep me for too long, which is why, for once, they were based and not annoying. Anyway, so enough of dealing with that, and my mom constantly accusing me of mental illness, even though I was so sane. I speed run to mental hospital this time without even needing pills, because that's why she's bad still. I decided at this point I'm going to stop taking mental health pills because I just don't care. I behave too well. At worst, I smoke weed. I stop caring. So anyway, enough reviewing dumb shit. We're now going to review the Pavilion in total, which overall assessment score, cringe. Not going to lie. I won't lie, we did have enough of a breakdown to justify it, but based on one-on-one talks and just how long it took to get checked in, very fucking annoying. It took like 4 hours to get checked in total into a wing. 1 hour or so was spent in just the back room while they filled out paperwork. 2 hours was spent arguing with my mom, mainly, where at best we talked to the real assessment people for like 5 minutes tops. My mom talked to them for way longer than me to basically stack the deck against me for mental illness, which would be neat if I knew what evidence she used, because she sure didn't give me any evidence in front of me in person. I'm not going to lie, I'm not sure I should judge too hard, especially when she keeps claiming I'm manipulative. And when you believe someone's manipulative on that game board, you should provide all the reasons they're mentally ill instead, because they can do the average Machiavelli wall and just act really chill in public all day, like I can, if she really thinks I'm manipulative and based, which is just neat. Anyway, they took too long to check me in. It sucked. The staff at least were very polite and normal. They were at worst just annoying because the secretary just had cringe arguments about why my mom should be able to try and take me to a second mental hospital if the first one failed, which at one she did argue about that a bit soft. And I basically did a funny response like, do you trust your facility? She's like, yes. Why do you think if I pass your mental assessment and don't get made to stay here, we should have to do a second one? Because basically my mom got scared enough at one point to immediately schedule a second stay at OSF, because the first one looked like it was going to fail so hard she decided to start trying to figure out OSF to take me to their mental hospital, which didn't work, right, because it didn't need to. I stayed at the Pavilion somehow. I blame arguing for 2 hours. That's really just it. I was just too angry. Didn't even do anger management classes though, because I was that based, I guess. Anyway, moving on to finally reviewing the Pavilion for real. Enough complaining about trauma. That is barely dramatic. It's just annoying. Anyway, how was Pavilion stay? Well, the first wing was pretty fucking. She was barely decent. We were in the women's wing, I guess, for a while with trans people, which was neat. We managed to behave well. My only complaints were that there was a door that was like a mix of red and brown, like If We Be Nice to Society, and not assume a horror film was real. They fucking didn't finish painting the door red, and they just got bored to leave it like that, which caused a minor horror scene in my head where I keep looking at it and be like, did people get beat against this wall and their blood soaked into the door? There was a cute meme there that unfortunately, if I do trauma reflections, reflects that I was in the Pavilion before, and I had left a line there to remind myself of that. There was another Final Fantasy X week, which basically there was a line in yellow chalk in this like little quiet room that you can kind of enter during the day if you're bored, because the bathroom's there. Anyway, it says this is not the end of your story, which basically activated a long flashback of Jesus Christ, I've been in this building before, which was annoying. We're not going to go into it more than that. Just know I was there before, based on that. Anyway, going from there and rating the stay, it was actually pretty decent as always. The first wing I was staying in was annoying because, well, they turned off the TV too soon. There was basically no TVs on during regular time, but I'm not going to lie, I did not beg for the remote at that point. So it could have been my fault for not being stubborn and just being annoyed with them and changing to be a sad little bitch and not asking for the remote or more TV time. Because we did not have a meeting at that point, probably. Literally, I was annoyed. I best got 5 songs on the TV, they turned off the music, which was annoying. Could there have been cope for that moment? Not gonna lie, maybe. It was a depression soundtrack at the moment, and I was depressed staring out a window. So they could have been just being there, but just like, turn off that sad music. It's enhancing the sadness. Anyway. After that, we'll do a brief review of food, for breakfast at least, because breakfast happened at this point, for this part of the stay. Breakfast was decent. It was a decent meal. It was basic shit. We just, it's basically cereal, yogurt. We got waffles, was the best breakfast. thick waffles. There's also a taquito. Only one taquito, but it was a great taquito. Tornado quality from the gas station. Very good taquito. Very good breakfast taquito. Breakfast was pretty meh. Otherwise, just average stuff. How was the group therapy sessions? They were okay. We didn't really do too much trauma. I was the only one that really brought up decent topics. No one really wanted to talk about trauma at group therapy. The topics I brought up were, I only brought up one real topic, which was basically my chemistry stagnating versus chemistry advancing debate, which basically I know is that's like your made-up issue probably. I don't hear anyone being autistic about this here. It happened in town. Anyway, they didn't really acknowledge it too hard beyond just, they didn't seem to get freaked out by me being like, if we can be too scared of chemistry advancing, we'll never reproduce. No one reacted to that. My main reaction was just admitting at the end that, like, we can also do neat things with this, making new food flavors and food construction, construction materials. And we all agreed, because I added in, like, I'm actually really bored of food flavors as well. That's, like, one of my main reasons for wanting new chemistry. I want new food flavors, I'm that bored. We actually got a few agreements about that. One guy got weird and started talking about stagnating DNA, though, which I barely understood. But that was weird. I mean, that was the closest thing to a political argument we had, because he's like kind of talking about DNA. Now DNA stagnates when we reproduce. And I was like, okay, all right, a bit weird. I don't know if you're real. He went off. He did not stay on topic too long. He was just a bit weird like that. All right, and for other than that, the food was great. We'll move on to food again. Food for lunch and dinner was amazing every time, except for the last time I saw dinner, which was at best still like medium good. A worst meal for lunch and dinner was the last meal I didn't eat in because I left at that moment at the lunch, which was a grilled chicken breast and some green beans and a fucking biscuit. It looked like a fucking like a honey biscuit or whatever for my Thanksgiving style. It still looked pretty good. Every meal before that was better. Best meal was the tacos with genuinely grilled on the stove, not grilled. It was like cooked cooked on a skittle with butter, I think, to make it like nice soaked vegetables with it. It was great. Amazing taco day. Best taco day I've had in a while. So great food, great portions this time. We even had snack times, which is great. Everything was great food-wise. Entertainment-wise, we'll do a brief breakdown of entertainment. Once we got to the second wing, entertainment was based. We had 2 day rooms. There was at least one TV on in one day room the whole time when we weren't doing groups. We were watching movies the whole time. Pretty based once we got to that second wing. What else, guys? What else? Moving on to how were group therapies. Group therapy was interesting this time because mainly there was a guy who would come in and do a meme and leave. Some of them were interesting. The first 2 were like the most interesting, even though one of them was dumb. The first one was neat because basically there was these robots mining for like uranium rocks or something by breaking boulders. And then the big boulder breaker had a breakdown because he kept sharing the rocks in a pattern that was nice, I guess. And at the last minute he did favoritism, I think, to his like favorite one. And they had a breakdown in the workplace. I just call it a workplace breakdown. I didn't talk too hard because I didn't want to admit that there was like 2 memes going on my head where it's like I thought one of them was a rapist, which was a giant boulder bot. I didn't want to talk about. The other meme was like just like my own trauma point in my head is like, you're trying to cuck him, bro. You're gonna beat him up and steal his rock collector girlfriend. The other one was dumb. I won't lie, I had a schizo pattern in my head happening because I saw it in a survey once, and there's a video of dodo birds freaking out on an island as a volcanic eruption happens, and they jump in the water all at the same time. I'm not gonna lie, I do have a schizo thought pattern I didn't talk about, which I'll admit that schizo thought pattern is, I think that's a fucking like dumb combo of chemistry to stagnate the universe so that chemistry doesn't advance because that volcano erupted. I don't think it works because the volcano is too hot. I think it's just dumb. Otherwise, you look at the whole cartoon, it's just a dumb cartoon of dodo birds freaking out, and a volcanic eruption happens. It's just them doing dumb with eggs, and then they get an egg stuck on a branch. They throw the fucking egg, and then throw other eggs. They have to knock it down while catching the eggs. Eventually, they do get it down somehow without breaking the other eggs. They don't even sew the eggs smacking together to knock it off. So it's just a dumb meme to me the most. And I was like, just justify chemistry making everything work, which it doesn't. It's just a dumb meme. Anyway, alright, so that was a funny meme where he tried to act like there was a moral of the story. I don't remember what his moral of the story was. I think he's wrong. He did really try hard with the lecture to make it seem like something mattered. It did not matter to me enough to pay attention to him. Alright, after that session, we got to the second wing, and the last I'll mention, because shortly after that, we got to move down. Alright, we'll mention the one corruption of the wing that happened. First of all, they were very lazy about getting me new scrubs. Literally, I started out in scrubs only, and I saw patients that were wearing regular outfits once in a while, a bit soft, some of them like in real outfits even changing on a daily basis. They were lazy with me, to the point that the only reason I got new scrubs was because I was in the same room getting a blood test done, and I asked for scrubs because they were right in front of me. She actually did it. That's the only time I got scrubs changed. It was somewhat my fault the third day when I got out, because I didn't ask about getting my scrubs changed, I think I'd go into the annoying autism again. Especially because there's supposed to be a rule on their board of rules on the second wing I was in, where it's like you're supposed to be able to get 3 outfits at bare minimum, and I was like, based. Can I get my 3 outfits out of my suitcase? They never let me. It was going to be annoying, still a bit soft anyway, because there was no rule to let you wear my sick Pavilion gloves or nail polish and stuff. So even though I did get to wear it a bit soft, actually soft and hard is, I wouldn't be able to reapply it while I was there probably, which makes sense, kind of. Anyway, that was the mild corruption of the room. Otherwise, there was no real corruption this time. It was just them being fat about giving me new clothes, which they barely justified. Oh, and there was some minor autism with nicotine patches, where for some reason you could only get nicotine patches in the morning. I once tried at 3 p.m. and at 7 p.m. They wouldn't let me have nicotine patches in the afternoon. I was like, what the fuck? That was just annoying. Otherwise, as I said, entertainment at this point was base. We had at least one day room with the movie on the whole time. And there was one other meme which I love and hate. It was basically forced socializing and forced going to groups. Forced going to groups was basically you get a minor punishment, or that you don't get to go to the cafeteria to basically get unlimited drink refills and a few extra drink options like milk and orange juice, and chocolate milk too. Basically, you have more limited drink options. And there's only one benefit as a game designer, which is that your food isn't super hot when you get your food. You can take longer to eat it if you choose to eat it in a fucking wing and ignore a group meeting. Because there was a day or two where the food was super hot because they freshly cooked it, and you had to go through the burn to eat your meal in a full time. That was annoying, especially because we only had a 30-minute lunch period. But I pushed through that a lot before I could keep doing it. Food was great still. Anyway, what else? Let's see. Did we have group every day? Kind of, but we didn't even do every group meeting. There was actually supposed to be a lot of group meetings to where we were supposed to be really busy. At that point, we barely had any, more than at best twice a day, even though there was supposed to be 4 meetings a day, bare minimum, for every group. They even had a topic, which off the top of my head, there was legit group therapy. Then I already forgot the other 3 terms. They were all different categories, though. Let's see, what else? What else do I have to say? I won't lie. There was one minor incident worth reviewing because security was cringe in, honestly, all departments. It was really fucking annoying. Basically, we had an autistic psychopath moment happen. Why? Based on context, honestly, it was triggered by me saying, I'm John Brierly at your service, at the start of group therapy. And he autistically struck a man with his elbow behind his head. Literally, just fucking, I'll demonstrate the autism for you. He was such an utter psychopath. Based on hearing my name, he just went, just something like that, bro. Just so fast and hard, bro. It was a real autism. It was he was a real psychopath. And I was really annoyed because they barely worked to restrain him, honestly. They were pretty lazy about it. They barely even like manhandled him, which was annoying. And then they let him out of that room too soon, and he was barely isolated. It was really fucking annoying. He was the best away from the group for like an hour or two tops. I would have grounded him for the whole day, made him eat in his room. It was annoying, very annoying. They just did not restrain him enough for myself. He should have been put in seclusion for the whole day at bare minimum, for the rest of the day at least. They just let him out too soon. It's fucking annoying, especially because he's a weird autistic dude that just would stand in the corner of the second day room all day, by the TV, not even being able to have an angle on the screen, and just stare at people like myself. He was literally so autistic in that position all day. I would have eventually mentally illed him and been like, "Sir, why aren't you at least standing in a position where the screen is at? Why are you this cringe and autistic?" And not ever question him about that to my face. I would have done it eventually. A lot. If I was the staff. I didn't question him because I was bored. I didn't feel like being an amateur psychologist in the psych ward. I just felt like leaving. Let's see, is there anything else worth revealing other than that? Other than that mental illness, everyone was pretty normal for the most part. At best, we had a minor fucking argument about something where a black man freaked out and stuff. Oh, we had the second autism of the server, which was, I don't know, maybe a rape threat or something happened. I'm not sure about what the context of this sentence happened, but someone was like, oh wait, no, that's right, he's calling him a faggot. He's like, you're like a faggot that sucks dick or something. And just the man was so autistic, he just says, yes, I do suck dick. I'd suck your dick too. And I was like, great. That's the new most mentally ill moment of the server. And that's basically all notable incidents that happened that were cringe and autistic for everything. Oh wait, no, there was the incident at the start. The very start, which caused a minor moment of like, damn, is shit gonna be a fucking adventure zone of cringe autism this week? Because not gonna lie, at the start of me getting entered to the wing, before I even changed out of my clothes into the scrubs, a man jumped through the nurse's window into the nurse's little staff area where they sit behind a desk, demanding pills or something, or because he wanted a triage because his feet were numb, and he like launched himself through the window. But they kind of did a decent job restraining him, I guess. I was barely scared. I was just like, they actually got him and put away pretty decently to an extent. Actually, I don't think they put him restrained him that hard. Actually, did he come back out of his room? At least did by the morning, which I can't judge 11 at night. I might have been willing to do a reset on him and just letting him see how he acts in the morning. He's been really acting very good in the morning. What else? He was a trans woman, actually, by the way. We're going to leave it at that and not say their name. Anyway, did anything else important happen with him? Honestly, they just like, maybe they didn't restrain him enough for grounding, especially because he basically climbed over like a nurse window into the staff's area behind the little bar area to demand pills or something. I might have done more restraints, but I don't know, we behaved well after that. So maybe I'm just mean. Anyway, I was basically it. There was no one-on-one therapies. There was at best just me just talking about myself and being like, the most honest thing there was is that I admit that I have a history of violence. And I also did try to get a minor therapy twice, which was the chemistry stagnating versus chemistry advancing. That's the only thing I feel really passionate about. It's like a real issue. Besides just the usual, I miss my ex-girlfriends. Yeah. Other than that, it's just like I'm worried about chemistry stagnating, mainly even on a relationship level, because I'm just like, I remember Christian means that women only want to date men for 3 months and run off, and I'm just like, what if you guys are scared of chemistry on a biological level, and that's why you guys always break up with me in 3 months and be fucking sexual prudes, instead of just being repressed for the sake of being a neat, cute virgin? Well, if you're scared of chemistry like a faggot, that's basically where like most of my trauma is at right now. It's just that argument in my head. And just applying chemistry advanced to everything, being like, are you scared of having a relationship because of two mouths kissing and saliva mixing together, which they did not acknowledge in the mental hospital at all again, and even during group therapy, or the closest thing to a one-on-one thing, have a risk assessment of how I was feeling that day, with a very long survey that was a bit intense. That was just on a questionnaire level. We didn't barely ask anything actually intense. It was just a lot of questions. Anyway, that's it, guys. Pretty much review of Pavilion was pretty good for a lifestyle. They did not give me one-on-one therapy. Group therapies were actually kind of decent. Say it again once he drives off. Even though I did not exactly have much of a trauma therapy moment, and my best responses to the room was just me promoting tests of faith in mental hospitals. To test stuff like if you're a rapist or sexist, which the patients were traumatized by. The nurses did not really acknowledge it, or anyone that was staff. Anyway, that's it, guys. Peace and love. Guys, let me get a good life. Peace and love, guys. Peace.